So I wanted to tell you a story about something that happened this weekend with my husband and I. It's a story that will really help you understand attraction from a woman's point of view, how it gets lost, how it gets gained through connections and emotions. So my husband and I, we have a wonderful relationship. We communicate, we're very open with each other and honest with each other. But there are certain times when we do have arguments. People get stressed and sometimes they don't know how to handle their emotions. We're not perfect and we do have arguments and fights that sometimes get a little bit out of control. And sometimes fights, obviously it's going to happen in a relationship. The real judge of a relationship is how it gets handled afterwards. So I wanted to walk you through what happened and how to handle it in the future so that if you run into the situation with a woman that you're dating or that you're going to be dating in the future, you can know exactly what needs to be done to not control, but to stop it from exploding into something a lot bigger than what it actually is, because that's where a lot of difficulties in relationships stem from. So the argument that we had on Saturday night was because he was really stressed out. He has a job that he's about to do in a week. He's a freelance producer, so it's quite challenging, and the build up towards the job gets a little more stressful as it gets closer to an event or the project that he's working on. And it can sometimes consume his mind, which drains him. And we had plans to go out on Saturday night, and he was stressed and a little down on himself, probably being over anxious. And for me, I wasn't really focusing on him. I was focusing on the excitement of going out for the evening because I was really excited to go to this place that we've been waiting to go to for a long time. And for the first time ever, he had walked into the room when I had gotten dressed and sort of looked at me and didn't say anything. And he usually tells me I look great or, something verbal, some verbal reassurance, and he didn't say anything. And he sort of looked at me and then sort of looked back at himself. So I said, okay, what's wrong? What's going on with you? And he kept saying nothing, nothing, nothing. And so for me, that gets to me because I feel like it's me. There's something wrong that I've done, especially in that moment, because we're usually very good communicators with each other. And he was just so focused on himself and his anxiousness that he pulled back. And so I got a little down on that situation that we were going to be going out with him sort of not being present, which is not an ideal thing for me in an evening because my goal is to connect before he goes away on a shoot. So we ended up talking before we went out, and I was still a little bit, hurt or upset or not. I was confused. I wasn't really sure what was going on. And I had said, what is going on? And he finally said, I'm just in a bad mood. I'm really stressed. And he got, more stressed and angry. And that triggered my emotions where I got really upset. And then when he sees me getting really upset sometimes, usually he can handle it really well. But if he's concentrating on himself, it's his moment that I'm sort of intervening on, but it happens. He got more upset and more angry and started getting more mad at himself for being so upset. And anyway, his anxiousness got the better of him. And we ended up getting into an argument that was a little bit more blown up than it needed to be. And so that, for me, instantly cuts off our connection. We had had a great few weeks with each other, like madly in love. Very happy with each other and really connecting and communicating. And then after that, it sucks. I don't want it to be like this, but it is. It's like the connection and the trust has sort of been lost. He wasn't, in my eyes, again, to no fault of his own, but it's what happens. I don't tell you what women should do. I tell you what they do and how they act and respond. So for me, instantly the attraction and connection went away right after we had that argument. And we had a great night out. We went out with friends. It was really fun. But I felt no internal connection to him. And that continued for the next day. I spent the day, I was doing yoga, things like that, doing my own chores or whatever it was that I needed to do. He watched football, and that was totally fine. But that connection wasn't there anymore. And for me now, I'm in a position of not really feeling anything towards him, and it's sad. And the thing is that this is going to end because we will talk about it and we will work through that and then continue our relationship so that it can rebuild and regrow. But a lot of people find themselves in a situation where they let that disconnect continue because they don't really know how to fix the situation. And what I want to tell you today are a few things that you can do to fix the situation with your woman. Now, of course, you have to have your woman be able to assist in this experience as well. But what we are looking for during this situation is really an acknowledgement of what happened, and that there is a little bit of remorse for it, which is great, and there will be remorse on my part as well. But that some sign that you've regained your strength, because that's what would be attractive in my eyes. When he had that moment and crumbled, I saw no strength in him. I saw that I may have been the stronger person during that period. And although, my man is allowed to be vulnerable and he's allowed to have weak moments, I want him to show me that he is back to that position of strength. And is back to that position of strength is really the best way to put it. So what that means is what I would need for him to do is for him to ask to talk with me, to sit me down and say something like, I'm really sorry for what happened the other night. I was in a bad mood and I've had time to work through that bad mood. And here's what was going on with me. Here's what was happening. And then we can have an open communication or an open conversation about what was really going on. And if I could help in some way, I would offer to help. But he's still showing to me that he acknowledges and understands what happened rather than being defensive and trying to shove it under the carpet, which he kind of tried to do on Sunday by being over the top friendly to me, which does not work at all. It's kind of like beating your wife and then buying her flowers the next day. It does not work. Not that something else works in that situation, but you kind of understand what it is that I'm saying to you. So sitting down with me, talking with me, opening up a space to have conversation and letting me know that he, again, is strong. Or if he's not in that place of strength, that he knows what to do or he's asking for my assistance. All three are signs of an amazing, attractive man. And that would help me regain my confidence in him as a strong, stable man that I can lean on, count on, and depend on. And again, this isn't a way to say, okay, here's how you become whipped by women. You just like cowtail and say, I'm so bad, I did something wrong, please forgive me. It's a little different. It's taking a position of strength and acknowledging that something wasn't handled properly, which is by far one of the sexiest things that a man can do is confidently explain his faults and his mistakes and the fact that he's learned from them. Doesn't mean that this is never going to happen again, but this is how you stop that vicious cycle of tension and conflict between a couple. And I talk about this stuff and a lot more things when it comes to, a woman's point of view and a man's point of view and, where a woman's coming from and how it feels on the inside for her and what would help her calm down and find you attractive again. Again, not from the position of, I want to turn you into wimps that, women will kick to the curb, but it's really helping you become a man that women want and that they want to love and admire. And I talk about this, again, in my program, How to Become a Man Women Want. And if you want to check it out, there's a link below, and I definitely recommend you try it and see how it works for you. And when you start seeing huge changes in your interactions with women, you can give me a big hug.